So in our presentation, we have referred from various scriptures like commentaries from Acharya Shloshana Thakur and various Puranas, Puranic cosmology. And we have also referred from Bhugola Varnam. The author of this book is Srila Vadiraja Tirtha. He is a great scholar in the line of Madhva. He is like Jiva Goswami in Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. The Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami written so many scriptures, and Jiva Goswami commented on those scriptures. Like that, Madhvacharya written so many scriptures in Madhva Sampradaya. And Acharya like Vadiraja Tirtha and Jayatirtha, they commented on the works of Madhvacharya. So he is born in 1480 and he was there for 120 years. So recently we know that Paryaya happened in Udupi. So he is the one who changed the Paryaya period from 2 months to 2 years. And he went for 5 Paryaya periods. Vadiraja Tirtha, he went through 5 Paryaya periods. Just now we also have the current Paryaya Acharya, is the fifth time he is going through. So like that. So there are so many details about him are there in Bhugola Varnanam. It is basically said that the Vayudev is going to be next Brahmaji, and Vadiraj Tirtha is going to be next Vayudev, future Vayudev. So before becoming Vayudev, currently he is in probation period. So he is as powerful as Vayudev. So Vayu can go any place all over the universe. Similarly, he also can go to any place because he is as powerful as Vayu. So he can go to any place. So he has personally gone to all the places within the entire universe. So what he is writing in his book called Bhugola Varnanam, they are his personal experiences. That's how later on Acharyas established his position. And they say that this Acharya, he lived for 120 years with good health. He entered into Samadhi. He did not go through natural death. He took Samadhi. Afterwards, a born dumb person, he entered into the body of a born dumb, a person who is born dumb, he cannot speak anything. And then he dictated his biography through the dumb person. Generally, who is born dumb, he cannot speak. But this personality, after entering into Samadhi, he entered into that dumb person and dictated his own events of his own life, his autobiography kind of thing. So then they written the book that is called Vrindavan Akhyanam. So we can see his potency. So in that way. And when he was there, he wrote this Bhugola Varnanam, and this gives all the details about this entire universe. These are called the proof of established saint. We have 3 pramanas: Shabda Praman, Anumana Praman, and Pratyaksha Praman. So there are few more pramanas. Among them, one praman is called Apta Praman. Even a trustworthy person, he speaks something, that is also as good as a praman. The acharyas in our sampradaya, whatever they say, for example, Rupa Goswami and Jiva Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, whatever books they written, they are like Apta Praman. When they were there, they written based on their realizations. And afterward, they become scriptures for us. The same way, these great saints, whatever they write, this is Apta Praman. That is as good as Shabda Praman. Because they don't have any personal motives to cheat people. Their existence itself is for the benefit of people in general. So whatever they say, that is bona fide. So that is how they speak about him. So we just see all these details go to show that this Bhugola Varnanam is not just a concept formed by the study of Puranas. He has given us first-hand knowledge of all the regions of the universe which he visited and saw actually. He personally visited them and saw them. Then he is presenting in his book. Knowledge of truth published by the Shastras is tested with reference to visual perception, logic and Vedic literature. This Pratyaksha, Anuman, Agama. To these is added what is known as Aptavakya, or words spoken by reliable persons. So they established this personality is real Apta. Whatever he speaks, they are bona fide. So who else could be a greater Apta or more reliable person than Saint Sri Vadiraja? Saint of highest order, the most profound scholar, and one who had full mastery over spiritual powers. Aptavakya is the word of a reliable person who is in well informed, discerning, and has no intention to cheat others. That's whatever I spoke till now. Therefore, Saint 3 Vadiraja's Bhugola Varnam is Aptavakya for us. It is not only reliable, it can stand the test of modern science by all counts. So now he is going to talk about same things whatever we discussed till now in different terminology. He says that Brahmanda or the hollow golden shell containing the universe is full round in every direction. This is talking about Brahmanda, the golden shell. It is round in all directions. In three directions it is round. East to west, north to south. In it, so basically he is dividing within that Brahmanda there is Bhumandala. That Bhumandala is divided into three parts. The outermost circle, it is called Ganodaka. He terms Ganodaka and defines it as solidified water. Ganodaka, outermost circle. This is as good as Aloka Varsha in our description. And then within this Aloka Varsha there is a region that is called the region of darkness, that is as good as Loka mountain. And within that there is a region called circular earth, that is Prithvi, that is as good as the Loka Varsha, which goes all the way up to golden land. So Upanishads describe the earth as Prithvi, the internal land up to golden land is called Prithvi. They are referring with this term Prithvi again and again. The earth, the 7 islands and 7 oceans are circular in form. That Prithvi, it is containing 7 islands and 7 oceans. This earth is said to stretch from sea to sea as the Brahmin seers conceive it. It has Mount Meru at its very center and it contains 7 islands and 7 oceans stretching around the Meru center. The same thing whatever we have seen through till now. So all these three put together, the total width is 500 million yojanas. That is the total diameter of the Bhumandala. And all these details are supported by Vayu Purana. So whatever he wrote in the scripture, in the book Bhugola Varnam, they are all supported by Vayu Purana. The measurements, he gives that the central earth diameter is about 71.43 million yojanas. Its radius is 35 and the dark region is about 107. Ganodaka is about 250. So the central earth 35. So he said that the diameter of the circular earth including 7 islands and 7 oceans is about 50.7. We have seen the outer radius of the Shuddhodaka ocean is 25.35. So that is 2 times 50 in that way. So after this, there is a land called Atyadda Sthala. So we are calling it as Golden Land. He is calling it in different name. So this land contains 3 parts. There is a land of gold, that is Swarna Bhumi, whose width is about 12.8 million yojanas. There is a land of diamond, Vajralepa, it is about 8.4 million yojanas. And these 3 put together, it becomes 71.9. But actual width is only 71.43. The remaining portion, that is called Brahma Bhumi, which is also included into this. So like that he gives all the details. This golden land and Vajralepa, because this Vajralepa term comes in Ramayana also, that we will discuss in future. This Vajralepa details also discussed in Ramayana. So beyond Brahma Bhumi lies the Lokaloka Parvata. After this there is Lokaloka Parvata, which surround the entire terrestrial region. It goes all the way up to Dhruvaloka in height. So after this, the Andhatamas area begins. This is called a pit of darkness known as Andhatamas. He is situated below the earth level, sunk in Ganodaka. It is after the mountain, there is a pit. That pit is called pit of eternal hell or Andhatamas. This surrounds the Lokaloka Parvata and is termed as Adogati or the downward path. This is very deep. Sinners who deserve greater punishment, they are made to go to this Andhatamas area. The principle of darkness extends even higher than the Lokaloka Parvata. It is petrified darkness like water turned into ice. The Lokaloka mountain and afterwards darkness is like water turned into ice, the solidified water. So this is the darkness area where Arjuna went along with Krishna. So this Andhatamas is situated below the earth level, sunk in Ganodaka. This region surrounds the Aloka Varsha and is termed as Adogati, downward path. So this is shown like this. So this is Loka Loka mountain, and this is pit of eternal hell. And here is the Mansutar mountain where sun is moving. So this is Mount Meru. It's like that. So then he goes to describe within the halos of the earth down below are 7 worlds ranged one below the other. The 7 lower planets, they are said to be within the halo of the earth. Atala, Vitala, Sutala, all the way up to Patala. They are like halos within the earth. When we go to mountain for trekking, we see there are so many caves in the mountain. Like that, these lower 7 planets are situated within the halo. So each of these about 10,000 yojanas in width and height. Thus 7 put together becomes 70,000 yojanas. The Meru mountain as its base within the earth about 16,000 yojanas. The gap between these 7 nether worlds, there is a gap between 2 worlds about 500 yojanas, that put together becomes 3,000 yojanas. So all these 3 put together, first within the earth, first Meru ka base is there, and after that the 7 lower planets are starting, and in between there is a gap about 500. So all put together 70 plus 16 plus 3, it becomes 89. So there the earth extends still further below to a depth of 11,000 yojanas. The total put together, the thickness of the Bhumandala is about 100,000 yojanas. We have seen the surface area above. The thickness of the Bhumandala is about 100,000 yojanas. So that is how he describes in the scripture. It is all rock in nature. This area below the 11,000 yojanas, this is all rocky in nature, and it is the location of Ashtadikajas. There are 8 elephants which are beneath this area. They are also giving support to the Bhumandala. So below this, Lord Adishesha, lifting one of his 1,000 hoods, supports the world known as Bhumandala above him, so that the earth does not sink into Ganodaka or Garbhodaka ocean. So we have referred previously, there is a gap because of which the earth can fall down, but earth is held by Adishesha, that is here. So he kept earth on top of one of his hoods. He is taking the weight of this. We always say that this pastime, Lord Shesha, he was given this responsibility to take the earth. So he was asking how long I have to continue this. Then he was told to glorify the qualities of the Supreme Lord. So he is still glorifying with his 1,000 mouths. So it is never ending. So that's how he is still holding the Bhumandala. So this is the image drawn by the scholars of Madhva. This is Bhumandala. This is Ganodaka area. This is Andhatamas area. This is Prithvi. And below this there are 7 lower planets, and these are Ashtadikajas. The Shesha is holding him. This Shesha is taking support of Kurma, who is floating in the Garbhodaka ocean. These are upper planets, and these are universal shell. This is the total image, the description, whatever we have till now. So we'll go ahead. So now he is going to discuss about location of hells. So this is Bhumandala. This is the outer land, Aloka Varsha. This is equivalent to Loka Loka mountain, Andhatamas area. This is the Loka Varsha, including Golden Land, along with 7 Dvipas and 7 oceans. And beneath this Bhumandala, there are 7 lower planets, Atala, Vitala, all the way up to Patala. And below them the Ashtadikajas are there, and below them Anantasheshi is holding this whole Bhumandala on top of his hoods. And the Anantasheshi is taking support of Kurmadev, who is floating in the Garbhodaka ocean. He also needs some support, but Kurma can float in water. So, and this portion is the 7 layers of the Brahmanda. Oh, that is said that this white portion is the layer of earth. After that, the next layer is water layer. So in that layer there is another Kurma. This Kurma is called Vayu Kurma. This Kurma is called Vishnu Kurma. So he is giving support to the entire Brahmanda. He is within the waters. So Garbhodakshaya Vishnu's body is transcendental. So he is there and he is Achintya. He is not there. This is all material world. So his body is spiritual. So there is a gulf of difference. On the left hand side, that is south, lower than the visible earth level, there is a big moat, many yojanas wide and deep. This moat is nothing but a king's palace is surrounded by a canal filled with water. That is called moat. So like that, in the southern area of this Bhumandala, there is a moat. At its edge is Samyamanipura, Yamadharma's city, where he is always tending to his duties. The Vaitarni river, terror to sinners, is here. This moat is called Vaitarni river. After this, there are thousands of hells such as Raurava are there for punishing sinners of different kinds. So this is the place of hell. As per Srimad Bhagavatam, the hells are located beneath the earth but above Garbhodaka ocean. Since the hard earth extends downward up to where it finds support on Adishesha's head. So hard earth we have discussed till now, it goes all the way up to Shesha. So just before that, the hells are located. The hells, which are in line with the directional elephants, are naturally above the Ganodaka and below the surface of the visible earth. So this is one statement put in the bold. In the next slide we will make another statement. There are few statements we are going to make to come to a conclusion, which will be useful in our future discussions. So these are the 24 hells located here, below the earth level. Here is substantial ground for us to conceive that the 7 islands with their surrounding oceans are not flat like a single rupee coin. Whatever images we have seen till now describing about Bhumandala, they are all shown as flat terrain. Okay, now he is telling, taking the clue from previous statements, they are not flat like a single rupee coins, but they take a terraced type of arrangement. They take a arrangement called terraced. What is that? This is like this. The central portion is little bit higher, gradually it is going down. So when you correlate this with Bhumandala, the central portion is like Mount Meru. From Mount Meru, when you go outside, it is gradually going down. This is somewhat like umbrella. In the middle it is high, gradually going down if you see from outside. Like of temple Gopuram, when you see from outside, there is a shikhar in the middle and gradually coming down. Thus, the Pushkar Dvipa is 2 lakh yojanas lower than the upper edge of the basket-like Jambu Dvipa. The Pushkar Dvipa is the Pushkar Dvipa in which Brahmaji is residing, in which Manasutra mountain is there, where sun is travelling above this Manasutra mountain. That Dvipa is 200,000 yojanas below the peak of Mount Meru. Below the peak of Mount Meru. That is referring to basket-like Jambu Dvipa. So we know Mount Meru is at an height of 84,000 or almost close to 100,000. So it is said that there are 2 lakh yojanas lower than the upper edge of the basket-like Jambu Dvipa. So from the top of Mount Meru, it is 2 lakh yojanas below. From the base of Mount Meru, it will be 1 lakh yojanas below. From the top of Mount Meru, it is 2 lakh yojanas below. From the base of Mount Meru. So that is the location where planet Earth is situated, at the base of Mount Meru, very close to that. So from there it is 1 lakh yojanas below. It is this surface of Ganodaka, beyond the region of darkness, is in line with Pushkar Dvipa. After Pushkar Dvipa, there is Andhatamas. After that, there is Ganodaka. This Ganodaka, it is in line with Pushkar Dvipa. Only up to Pushkar Dvipa it is coming down. After Pushkar Dvipa it is going flat. No, Andhatamas includes Lokaloka mountain also, but Andhatamas is a pit of darkness. That is, after Lokaloka mountain there is a pit or surrounding Lokaloka mountain. Yeah, within that. Yeah. Yes. So they are all in the same line. The location of hells is slightly above this line. So this is how we can see the whole thing is situated. This is surrounding portion is Lokaloka mountain, and this is 7 Dvipas coming down. The 7th Dvipa, which is 2 lakh yojanas below from the top of Mount Meru. From the base of Mount Meru, it is 1 lakh yojanas below. This number is required for our future discussions. That's why we have given all the elaborate description till now. So Jambudvipa should be considered as being basket-like in shape because it is said that the sun, the moon and the stars do not shed their lights in the Ilavrita Varsha. Ilavrita Varsha, it is surrounded by 4 mountains. It is square in shape. Each mountain is going at a height of 10,000 yojanas. Though sun is moving around, the sunrays cannot go inside this land. That's how they say that this is like a basket. When you see a basket, in the center it is deep, outside it is above. So whatever light comes from outside can go inside. In that way. The middlemost region, this Ilavrita Varsha. Jambudvipa, it is a vast land containing 9 Varshas, having the golden Meru at its center. It is the midmost island with a diameter of 1 lakh yojanas. So this is the image drawn by Madhva scholars about Jambudvipa. Previously we have shown so many images about Jambudvipa. This is another image. So they say that this is symmetry in all 4 directions. The creation of Lord in symmetry is his artistic manner of creation. The Lord's artistic manner of creation is like this. Everything is in symmetry. So these are the 9 divisions of Bharata Varsha. The bottommost part is Bharatkhanda. So this is how we have discussed previously. These are 8 divisions. In the previous image, they are like little curved. And we have also shown one image like this. The divisions are divided like this. So they are gradually different. Acharyas are giving different way of representation. So Bharata Varsha is the southernmost division with the bigger Himalayas at its northern boundary and having a width of 9,000 yojanas. So this is bigger Himalayas. The width of this Bharata Varsha is about 9,000 yojanas. Jambudvipa should be considered as being basket-like in shape for obvious reasons. It has an altitude of 1 lakh yojanas. This is the height of Mount Meru. No, it is normal basket because there are mountains all around. Because of the mountains, the central area looks like a basket. Here, this is one mountain. All these are circular mountains. The central area, which is called as Ilavrita Varsha, it looks like a basket. Because the mountains are in all 4 directions, it looks like a basket. Yeah. So it has an altitude of 1 lakh yojanas. This statement may be supported by the following argument. This land is circular. This Jambudvipa is circular. The orbit of the sun and the moon are almost in line with the equator of Bharatkhanda, our globe. Pushkara Dvipa, above which sun's orbit is there, it is 1 lakh yojanas below the Jambudvipa. And Bhagavatam, in future we will discuss, the sun is said to be moving at a height of 1 lakh yojanas above Pushkara Dvipa. So, Jambudvipa at a height of 1 lakh yojanas from Pushkara Dvipa, sun is also at a height of 1 lakh yojanas from Pushkara Dvipa. So, both will be on the same level. So, that is how they come to this statement. The orbit of the sun and the moon are almost in line with the equator of Bharatkhanda, our globe. The line of equator that is almost in line with the sun. So to come to this point, they have described all this. The Puranas have located the sun at a distance of 93 million miles away from our globe. So in this book, they refer 1 yojana equal to 6.06 miles. So when you convert these miles into yojana, that becomes 15.35 million yojanas. But according to Bhagavatam calculations, if you take 1 yojana is equal to 8 miles, the number comes to 11.625 million yojanas. Both the numbers are almost close to Bhagavatam number. The Bhagavatam we have 15.75, this is 15.35 and 11.625. This also will speak about, when we speak about Uttara and Dakshinayana, this number is also part of that number. So it is also close to that number. So whatever science is telling 93 million miles sun is situated at, that is also matching to Puranic number. According to Puranas, the moon is at a distance of 250,000 miles. That is about 41,254 yojanas away from our globe. So when we convert into 8 miles, that is about 31,250 yojanas. So Jambudvipa, whose diameter is about 100,000 yojanas, it is also surrounded by saltwater ocean, whose width is about 100,000 yojanas. From planet Earth, which is almost touching the saltwater ocean, the moon is located at a distance of 41,000 or 31,000. So moon is traveling above saltwater ocean. From the boundary of Jambudvipa, the saltwater ocean extends for a distance of 1 lakh yojanas. This is only 30,000. That can be in the first half only. So moon is traveling always just above saltwater ocean. Thus the path of the moon lies above the Lavana Samudra. The orbit of Rahu is said to be 10,000 yojanas lower than that of the sun and inside the orbit of moon. There is sun at a far distance, there is a moon very close to Jambudvipa, and Rahu, whose orbit is 10,000 yojanas in height below the sun but inside the moon's orbit. So Rahu is much closer to earth. So all these things they are establishing because these things are will be useful while explaining eclipse. So this is corroborated by the words of Srimad Bhagavatam, which speaks of the suns Uttarayana, Dakshinayana and Vishuvayana. Bhagavatam talks about Uttarayana and Dakshinayana and Vishuvayana. So birds like Garuda, swans, Sena can fly in regions still further below. So because Rahu is said to be 10,000 yojanas below sun, and below him the birds can fly. So birds cannot come all the way up to Rahu. So in that way. All these are not possible if the entire earth, which is about 50 million yojanas in diameter, should be entirely flat. It should be having lower and higher parts, keeping Jambudvipa in the center on highest level. So this is the description of Bhugola Varnanam. This is the description previously whatever we have seen. If Bhumandala is like this, when sun is moving here, the sunlight can spread all over. Sunlight can go as far as it can. So then everyone should be experiencing daytime. But we said in the beginning, Priyavrat Maharaj, being dissatisfied by seeing 50% of people are experiencing night, he made another sun through his chariot. So that can be possible if the configuration is like this. See below, this is Bhumandala surface. Here Manasatra mountain is there, just above that sun is there. Sun is in line with the planet Earth, which is at the base of Mount Meru. Sun is connected to Dhruvalok also. So when sun is traveling here, this side obviously will be dark. So 50% of the land is experiencing night, 50% of the land this side can be experiencing daytime. If the configuration is like this, everyone can experience the daytime simultaneously. Since the previous statement of Bhagavatam goes wrong. So to prove the statement of Bhagavatam true, so Acharyas have described painstakingly all these details. Our globe, Bharatakanda, is perked. The dictionary meaning is to stick up or jut out at the southern edge of the basket like Jambudvipa. So now they are going to talk about planet Earth. It is not a planet going round the sun. So previously we said sun is moving. Now the statement is coming Earth. No, this is our globe. Our globe. Yeah, Bharatakanda. Our globe, which is planet Earth. No, that here we discussed whole Bhumandala. In the whole Bhumandala, the central portion is Jambudvipa. In that, the southmost region is Bharatavarsha. In the ninth division is Bharatakanda, that is planet Earth. He says Earth that is going all the way up to Swarna Bhumi. All the way up to Swarna Bhumi. Vajra Tirtha always says this as Bharatakanda, planet Earth as Bharatakanda. Wherever he says our globe or Bharatakanda, that is planet Earth. So now our globe, Bharatakanda, is perked or stick up or jut out at the southern edge of basket like Jambudvipa. It is not a planet going around the sun. There are two statements. One is sun is moving above Manasatra mountain. Now second statement, it is not a planet going around the sun. This concept is substantiated by the statement of one Sri Anantaramu of Bangalore, is a scientist, who had joined the crew of the first Indian Antarctic expedition. So what the scientist is to say? He says that the South Pole region projects downwards like a cone. The South Pole region projects downward like a cone. He also says that this region has not been properly surveyed. This is a long statement, long time back statement. Not surveyed properly. Therefore, it is indeed a flat lie to say that the South Pole region is slightly flat like the North Pole region. This is the scholar who is translating this work is saying. So this is how the ninth portion, the Bharatkhanda is situated. These images are not clear, but next image will be more clear. This is the ninth portion, this is the eighth portion. So gradually if you go inside like that. So this is how they draw the picture based on all the information. The South Pole, it is pegged out of this bottom Jambudvipa, and it is like this, Africa. So he says that in the book, the space expedition generally happens in the northern side or in the horizontal side. It never happens in the southern southern side. And he says that this area is like solid water. And he gives various references saying that if you see the entire planet Earth in the world map, you see in this, the most of the land is in the upper northern hemisphere. The southern hemisphere, most of it is water only. And that water also generally it is in icy nature. So always he is referring to Garbhodaka ocean as Ganodaka. Gana Udaka. That means solidified water. So all the oceans, they are solidified water in nature. So in the earth also we see most of the southern region is in ice form. In the northern region we have, and he gives references that the flight routes, they are mostly on the horizontal structure on the northern side. There are no flight routes in the southern side. So we'll see some things, supporting statements. So these flight routes do not exist. There are no flight routes. From Australia, there is no flight route to South America or South Africa going through southern pole, South Pole. This is Antarctica, South Pole. So then how do the flight routes exist? They exist like this in the northern side. And they go to say that many times the flights do not travel directly from South Africa to South America. They go and take intermediate halt and then go to South Africa or South America like that. This is little older version. Now we may say that we are so much advanced, we can go. So now we have this many flight routes. So many here, now we can go from here to here, here to here. But there are no flight routes, still there are no flight routes in the southern direction. Okay, then still some may say, still we can go. So this is another image with more clarity. Still there are no flight routes in the southern hemisphere. So now the summary of whole history of science. 1960s to 1990, these are the flight routes existed. This is North Pole. This is European or Asia, Russia area. So this is America and this is Africa and this is Europe. So there are, later on they improved, and in 2000s. In 2000 to 2010, the recent advancement, there are flight routes from Australia to Africa and Australia to South America. But they are also going away from Antarctica. They are not going through Antarctica. So few decades back, the Madhva scholars made a statement saying that there is a cone type of structure beneath. So till now we see something is still not yet clear. So I don't know how apt it is, but one thing, the one documentary I have seen about this thing, flat earth concepts. So they say that there are, at some point of time previously, the NASA, they were not allowing anybody to go and see this Antarctica area. Whoever goes, they are arrested and they were put into life imprisonment. So for this, there are so many movies made in the US and Europe. Some of them are like Under the Dome, Dark City, The Ice Wall, At the Edge of the World, The Giver, something like that. These are all talking about this particular area. So they say that this is the heaven. When you go to this southern area, you will go to heaven directly. Like that, there are so many movies are made. So this is about the description. This is a summary of all the dimension comparison between Bhagavatam and Bhugolavarna. Not required. So now, yesterday somebody asked the question, so why we are not able to see other 8 Dvipas of Bharatavarsha? Why Mount Meru, bigger Himalayas and Jambudvipa are not seen by us? All these things are not seen by us. Why? This is the biggest question, because they are very close to us. The bigger Himalayas very close to us, Jambudvipa and Mount Meru very close to us. We are seeing sun that are far distant and stars which are very far distant. The upper worlds and even the neighboring regions of our globe, which is perched at the south edge of Jambudvipa, are all invisible to our eyes and to our instruments, because they differ in composition, although the entire universe is composed of the same 5 elements. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, the main ingredients of the entire universe. They are also formed by these 5 elements only. But we are not able to see them. We are seeing things here, but we are not able to see them. Why? Though they are composed of 5 elements, we are not able to see. It is said in the Puranas, Adrishya Datava Sarve Samutpanna Jala Adaya. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, these elements, at one state they are visible, at other state they become Adrishya. So for example, water in its water or ice position we can see. Water in moisture position we cannot see. The dust in the earth we can see. The dust in the air we cannot see clearly. So like that. When the composition changes, we may not be able to see them clearly. The question is, will our scientists ever get over the human tendency of succumbing to pride and prejudice in order to know the truth? If somebody says about God and about any spirit kingdom of heaven and all these things, they say, can you show me? So the emphasis is given on Pratyaksha. So that's about the Madhva scholars are talking. So from now on there are 2-3 slides. The statements are very heavy. Please forgive me for that. But these are like, will they use a little introspection to shift from the mere physical to the spiritual? Will they ever move their thought process from physical to spiritual? If they move to spiritual, they can understand. As long as if they are strict to physical, difficult to understand all these things. Let the wise one build up a growing community to save the world from the darkness of materialism. If you are only depending on physical, it goes to materialism. So let them hold the torch of spiritual light, and let there be a renaissance of religious culture based on revelations. Not just on the Pratyaksha or sight, visible sight, but revelations. We should depend on revelation. So one example is given why they are not visible. Water or dust, in its solid form or liquid form we can see. But when it becomes gaseous form, we will not be able to see them. Though they are there, we will not be able to see them clearly. So the second example is that gold in the material world is Jada. The same gold in the spiritual world is Chinmay, that can speak to the Supreme Lord. It can do Adan Pradhan with the Supreme Lord. Same way we can understand the intermediate region, the heavens. It can be subtle in nature. So the Mount Meru and all the places where gold is abundant, they are all subtle in nature. So in that way we can understand, though they are there, they cannot be seen by us because their nature is subtle. Just the way demigods themselves can be seen by us, but not by our own demanding. When they want to be shown to us, they will come and they show themselves. When they were showing themselves, their ornament, the golden ornaments, whichever they are there on their body, they are also seen by us. So when they disappear, their ornaments also disappear. So the ornaments and their bodies are of same nature. So demigods are all subtle state, the ornaments are also in subtle state. Like that we can understand. The Mount Meru and all the places are in, because we have established that they are all heavenly abodes. So their nature is subtle in nature. So we want to see them. So here some technical information, will not go in detail. So basically he is talking about Alodana. This is called chemical combination, the combination of these 5 elements, forming the entire universe. So he is telling that universe is made up of these 5 elements, that is called Alodana, that is Big Bang, the Big Bang theory what we hear. He is just trying to bring science and scriptures to a common understanding. So he says that the 5 gross elements are created by Alodana, into which the modern scientists have gone a good peep, but they have failed to go much beyond the sky. Their research goes all the way up to sky only. They cannot go beyond the sky. That's how he says. The sky itself is created by a process known as Panchikarana. He says that sky is the combination of 120% of Shabda and 20% of the remaining 4 Tanmatras. We have 5 Panchamahabhutas, their properties 5 Tanmatras. The sky is 120% of the sky, and 20 all the remaining 4. That becomes 200%. Like that sky is formed. So like that all other elements are also formed. Earth is 120% earth, and the 20% all remaining. When you touch the earth, you feel warmth, you also feel moist, you can also hear sound through earth. So all the properties are there within the earth. So like that other elements also have their properties. So this explains us to say that in the sky there is earth element, water element, fire element, but we cannot see them because their proportion is very less. In the same way, all other planets, they are made up of 5 elements, but the earth element, the gross earth which we see, that is very less, so we are not able to see them. So inside the shell of Brahmanda, Gandha Tanmatra principle is concentrated. Gandha is planet earth. That its nature is fragrance. This is the primary thing. The 5 subtle material principles, the Tanmatras, dissolved in the watery principle entering into Brahmanda. He says that how the creation is made. All the 5 elements first entered into the universe as water. Because Garbhodakshaya Vishnu when entered, first he created water. So then what happened? That water became hardened water. That became Ganodaka, solid water, ice we can say. It is filled half of the shell. The remaining half is filled with air and sky. Then there are minerals formed in the solid water. That became earth. First there was water, then it became ice. Then the icy water became minerals. So because of the minerals it became earth. So the formation of earth, which is about 50 million yojanas, in geologistic and artistic manner is the hand of God. This is the Lord's creation, wonderful creation. All this is Vedic information, not scientific guess, not some speculation like that Acharya says. So we speak of suns and solar systems within the millions of galaxies. Have the scientists found at least one more solar system within our own galaxy? We also speak of galaxies of different types. Are there any galaxies seen in the southern celestial hemisphere except the 2 Magellanic clouds? The south region, if you at all you see through the telescope, you will see only 2 clouds. That is according to scientific information. They are named as Magellanic clouds. If not, what is beyond there into the south? That is the question he is posing. For the information of scientists, it may be said that what looks like a galaxy is just a cluster of millions of divine vehicles in the form of stars, racing at unimaginable velocities around the upper worlds. What we see in the space in the night, the stars, they are the vehicles of demigods. There are star-like planets, the abodes of Yakshas, Guhyas and the like, and the southern sky up to a certain extent. Because the Bhumandala is going like this. So even the east and west also, the stars are spread all over. So we can see in all direction except south, all these stars. Excepting the agnostic among the scientists who have built up prejudicial complexes in themselves, all the other great scientists have admitted the limitations of human knowledge and have declared that the mystery about the beginning is ever a mystery for them. There are some good scientists who accepted the mystery about the universe. There are some bad scientists who does not accept. That's how he concludes. So now there are some viewpoints from Srila Prabhupada. What Srila Prabhupada says? No experiments. Just hear from Srimad Bhagavatam. Why? Mountains on earth versus the universal mountains, whose height is 10,000 yojanas, 1 lakh yojanas. In our earth, we hardly have some 1-2 kilometers. So there is no comparison. Be satisfied with the statements of authorities. Appreciate how Lord's external energy manifests the cosmos. Why? Our experimental knowledge can neither verify nor disprove the statements of Srimad Bhagavatam, because they are not visible to our physical eye, so we cannot verify and we cannot disprove, because there are various proofs which show they are true. So this is from Prabhupada's viewpoint. So now, from Bhagavatam, there are so many references in relation to Jambudvipa and Bharatavarsha showing that all those places which we discussed, They are not some places of not inaccessible nature, but they are also have practical relevance. So when we hear pastimes from various Puranas, Ramayana, Mahabharata and different Puranas, Bhagavatam and various Puranas, we hear about various pastimes. So when we hear about those pastimes, there are some things connected to the pastimes also, basically the places. So when the pastimes are accepted to be true, the places also accepted to be true. So now we see some references connected to these places. So in Bhagavatam first canto, 12th chapter, verse number 5 and 6, this talks about the rule of Yudhishthira Maharaj. So there one word comes, Jambu Dipadi Patyamcha. Yudhishthira Maharaj was ruling whole Jambu Dipa. Though he is living in India, which is a part of planet Earth, but he is ruling whole Jambu Dipa. So this is the statement says. And from Mahabharata, we can see many references, how they went to different places. So this is Bharata Varsha. So in this, planet Earth is situated here. So from Mahabharata, some references I will cite. The first one is when Pandavas were in Aranyavas. So Vyasdev comes and informs Yudhishthira Maharaj. He gives him a mantra, tells him that you tell Arjuna to go to Himalayas and please Lord Shiva, get Pashupatasra and go to heaven and get all the divine weapons, because in future he has to fight with various great archers. So Yudhishthira Maharaj teaches that mantra to Arjuna. Just by reciting that mantra, Arjuna goes all the way up to this bigger Himalayas, not the Himalayas which we have in India. He just disappears and he appears on this Himalayas. There to please Lord Shiva, he performs austerities for 6 months. Just like Dhruva Maharaj performed austerities, eating once in 3 days, once in 6 days, once in 15 days, like that Arjuna, almost similar lines. He performs austerities for over 5-6 months and he pleases Lord Shiva. So then he went to heaven and he spent some time there in heaven. So by the time in planet Earth, 4 or 5 years passed, remaining Pandavas feeling separation from Arjuna. So they also want to go to the place where Arjuna went, so they can have a meeting with Arjuna. So then Bhimasen summoned his son, Ghatotkacha, because Pandavas on themselves, they cannot go from this place to upper Himalayas. So he summoned Ghatotkacha. Ghatotkacha is Rakshasa. They are more powerful than human beings. So Ghatotkacha along with his friends, they take Pandavas along with Mother Draupadi on their backs and they go to upper Himalayas, where one day they were sitting at one place. Draupadi finds a lotus flower, Saugandhika lotus flower. So she finds it very wonderful. She wanted to have some more flowers so that she can gift them to Yudhishthira Maharaj. She requests Bhimasen, please go and fetch some more flowers. So to get those flowers, he was going ahead, finding out that lake, that waterfall where it is coming. On his way, he met a monkey. So that is Hanumanji, we know. So there the statement comes, Hanumanji says that this is the end of human territory, after which the territory of monkeys begins. So you cannot go ahead. So that is referring to Kimpurusha Varsha, where monkeys of Ramayana are living still. So he is telling that this the territory of human beings ends, the Bharata Varsha ends here. So for you, the Saugandhika lake is in the eastern side, some direction he says. So go to that side, there is a forest on the bank of a river, a lake. So there you find these flowers. When he went there, so many Yakshas comes to stop him. He fight with Yakshas. Then he has a meeting with Kuvera also. So here we can see in the upper Himalayas, we have so many incidents where Arjuna went and performed austerities to please Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva's Kailas is also there on the upper Himalayas. Okay? And Bhima fought with Yakshas and he met Kuvera in his own home, that is called Alakapuri. That means Kuvera's abode is also there on upper Himalayas. So wherever Lord Shiva stays, Kuvera also stays along with him. And we have a prototype these places in our Himalayas also. We have Kailash and Manasarovar in our place. We also have Kuvera's abode also here. Like, because bigger Himalayas has a prototype here. And then other pastimes such as from Bhagavatam, 4th canto, after Daksha episode, when all the demigods are punished, they have approached Brahmaji and Brahmaji takes all the demigods to meet Lord Shiva. At that time they passes to Alakananda river. It is called there as Mandakini river. And then they goes to Alakapuri, which is the city of Lord Kuvera. And then they goes to Kailash, where Lord Shiva is discussing with his friends, Narada Muni and Kumaras, everyone. So that goes to say that Kailash is there and Alakapuri is there on the upper Himalayas. And then another pastime, when Uttama, the brother of Dhruva Maharaj, was killed by one Yaksha, Dhruva Maharaj goes to upper Himalayas. The term is referred as Himavadronyam, on the valleys of Himalayas. So there he went and fought with Yakshas. Then he had a meeting with the Yaksharaj, Lord Kuvera. So all these places are there. So these pastimes are showing us the relevance of all these places. So it is not that just because we are not given access to them, so they are not existing. These pastimes say that they are existing, some people have access to them. So, and one more pastime. During Rajasuya sacrifice, Arjuna took up the task to go on the northern side. So he conquered all the places within India and other places in the world and other places, and he went in his mystical chariot all the way up to Harivarsha. When he went to Harivarsha, the leaders of all the places, all the way up to Uttarakuru, they all came to Harivarsha and they told that actually these places are not accessible to human beings. We all accept Yudhishthira Maharaj's sovereignty. You please take this amount, whatever gift they wanted to present it to Yudhishthira Maharaj, and go back. You don't have to come and fight with anybody, because they are all happy to accept Yudhishthira Maharaj because he is a devotee of Lord Krishna. So that this pastime also goes to say that Arjuna could go all the way up to here. So it is there. And the next, in 16th chapter, it goes that this is the rule of Parikshit Maharaj. As soon as he became a king, he went on a Vijaya Yatra. At that time, he went to Bhadrasho Varsha, Ketumalam, Bharatam, Chotara Kurun, Kimpurushadini Varshani, Vijitya, Jagrihe Balim. So Parikshit Maharaj went to all these Varshas and conquered all these Varshas. He may not be fought with them, but he just went there and he had concurrences with them, accepting his superiority over everyone. So till the time of Parikshit Maharaj, there is the accessibility. Not only Parikshit Maharaj, even recently Madhvacharya also went to Appar Badri. So we know that Madhvacharya went to Himalayas to meet Lord Vyasdev. Initially goes to Badrikashram and he recites Bhagavad Gita commentary. Then he hears a voice, please come up. So then Madhvacharya wanted to go up. His disciple Satyatirtha wanted to follow him. He tells that you cannot come there, I can go. You please stay here, I will go. So Madhvacharya just by a jump, because he is Vayudev, he went from lower Badri to upper Badri, where he met Naranarayan Rishi, not Vyasdev. The same place Naranarayan Rishi also stays. Even in Bhagavatam 11th canto it is said that Lord Krishna told Uddhava to go to Himalayas to meet Naranarayan Rishi. So Naranarayan Rishi, they are also staying in upper Himalayas. So these are all pastimes, goes to say that these are places accessible. And there is no doubt that this upper Himalayas can have this bigger dimensions, 2000 yojanas width and 10,000 yojanas height and 6,000 yojanas length. Our Himalayas is about very small in dimensions. So it can very well establish their existence. So now, these are all we spoke about. At the foot of Kailash, demigods saw Alakapuri and Saugandhika forest. And Rudranucharana Sevitam, Tadarsha Himavadronyam. This is Dhruva Maharaj. And at Mount Meru's foot in Sukumara forest, Sudyumna became a woman. This is a pastime from 9th canto. The Sudyumna, the son of the current Vaivashvata Manu, Shraddadeva his name is. So he once wanted to go on for hunting along with his friends, unknowingly entered into Ilavrta Varsha. That forest name is Sukumara Varsha. But Durga Devi already made a setup. Whichever male person enters into this land, they should become female. So this person, Sudyumna, does not know about this. Unknowingly entered into that, he became a female. This pastime goes to say that Sudyumna personality could go all the way up to Ilavrta Varsha. And in Ramayana, during Kishkinda Parva, so monkeys on eastern direction in search of Mother Sita. Sugriva was explaining to all the monkey groups, you go to south, you go to west, you go to north, you go to east. When he was explaining to those monkeys which will be going to east, he will tell about all the dvipas. He will talk about golden land, and then he talk about Vajralepa, that land made of diamond. And then he also talks about this is the place at which the Ashtadikshas are staying, and also Lord Shesha holding the whole Bhumandala. the description comes in Ramayana. So all this goes to say that, so monkeys that time they could go all the way up to, so all these things gives a understanding that in Treta Yuga and Satya Yuga, the kings have access to all the Dvipas. In Dwapara Yuga, access is limited up to Jambu Dvipa. In Kali Yuga, access is limited to Bharatakanda or Bharatavarsha. So gradually the access is limited because our purity is coming down, so our access is coming down. So there are, this is how the whole thing, they went all the way up to Golden Land. So there are so many other references from 9th canto, which goes to say that there are so many great kings who became the rulers of 7 Dvipas. They were ruling. King Maruta, Ambarish Maharaj, King Magadha and Mandata, King Sagara and Lord Rama, and King Puru, later on King Bharata, the son of Dushmanta and Shakuntala, and Kartavir Arjuna. They are all the rulers of 7 Dvipas. They are all personalities of Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga. They could rule all that. So these pastimes establish that these are all accessible to some times, but may not be now. So we cannot say that they are outrightly not existing. So this is the first part of our presentation. We'll discuss second presentation. We'll discuss in third presentation. Yes. Yeah. Please, Prabhu, anything else? Yeah, that. Yeah. We'll go up to 8 o'clock tomorrow. Any questions relevant to the discussion what we had yesterday and today, we can have. Other things will, anyway, we are going to discuss. Yes, Prabhu.
Wasn't there yesterday, but I don't know if this is covered or not. Relation of Earth, which is Bharatvarsha, with respect to Jambudvip. Because we see as Earth in satellite, like it's floating in the sky.
Yeah.
So Jambudvip, the description comes of 7 islands.
Yeah,
So
part of 7 islands.
How do we relate that?
So that is, this is the image. This is the whole Jambudvipa. Yeah. In that the southernmost Varsha is Bharatavarsha. And this Varsha is further divided into 9 parts. The 9th, which is bottommost part, is planet Earth. This is how it is related.
Yeah, so this is a diagrammatic description.
Yeah.
If I'm asking, because when we see the satellite images of the Earth, it's a globe which is floating in the sky. And when we read about the description of Jambudvip, it's like a flat 7 island thing. So it doesn't fit in actually. So
yeah, the satellites, what they are seeing, only planet Earth, which is spherical in nature, whose dimensions are also matching to Vedic number, and about which we discussed. And the whole Jambudvipa is inaccessible for our physical eye. That is what we discussed in the last few slides. Although these things are very close to us, we cannot see them. Just like the water which is in the air, we cannot see that. The same way, this Jambudvipa and all remaining regions of Jambudvipa, we cannot see through our physical eyes. So for that, we need revelation, or we have to get the powers, the personalities who went all the way up to, like Madhvacharya, who could go all the way up to Upper Himalayas. When we develop that kind of power, we can see them. But with our current status, we cannot see them. That is the understanding presented by the scholars of Madhva.
okay, if there be, there'll be more. If you can describe in more detail that how that will be much more easier, because this doesn't give a pictorial view. If you can give, okay, even if we cannot see, we cannot access how it looks like, but if it can be described in a way that we can relate, because now it's like totally cut off. The explanation.
Okay, sorry to say this. Yeah. Yesterday we have discussed about it elaborately. You can please refer to the notes. Okay, you can refer to the notes. You will get clarity about it.
Okay.
Yeah. Can you pass the mic ahead? Here.
When we speak about the directions. Hare Krishna. When we speak about the directions, we have some reference point. So when we are speaking on this whole Jambudvipa, so when we say east, west, south, so how, when a paper you are making, okay, it's okay, north, east, south, west, for our understanding. So are these directions in the Bhagavatam also, north, east, south, west?
Yeah, in the Bhagavatam only they are mentioned. These are not true north and true south. These are referential points. See, for example, if I ask some simple question, so this is sunrise. In according to this building, this is sunrise. This is sunrise direction. We say this is east. This is sunset direction. This is we say west, and we say this is north. We say this is. So what do you say about this? What is this direction? And what is the direction below? Exactly opposite this. So we don't give them permanent nomenclature. But for the purpose of explanation, the scriptures give some temporary nomenclature. So they say this part as south and the beneath this part as north. So in this image, so this is east. Okay? Actually north is the above Mount Meru. It is above. Actual true north. The true south is below. And this direction is called south. That is only for the sake of explanation. So this is as good as that this tops the direction.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah. So for people who are living in Bharatavarsha, for him this is east. Okay. All the dimensions are specifically with respect to planet Earth. Okay. This is east. For a person who is living in Ketumala, what is east for them? What is east for him? Bharatavarsha will become east for him. So these directions are place to place. Relative. Just the way we say this is east for us. For Africans, this becomes east. So when sun comes on the midday, noon, that becomes sunrise point for Africans. So like that, these are all relative.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. This Bhumandal actually, this Priyavrat Maharaj, he gave each tract of land to his 7 sons. And subsequently they gave to their sons. So are they living up to now, or they are like that, they kept giving them to their sons and then further like that?
Yeah, people are ruling. Somebody is ruling. Just now currently somebody is ruling India. In future somebody else will rule India. And later on somebody else will rule India. You may be there, I may be there, I may not be there. So ruling will be going on. It may not be the same person, somebody else will be ruling.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, what about the moon? The scientists say that they have been to. Have they been to Rahu, thinking it is the moon? Because moon, I've understood by this, is very far away from. Rahu is much closer to Earth
yes.
than moon. So have they been to moon, or have they been to Rahu, thinking it is the moon?
I don't know anything about these details, but I can say something. What we understand from scriptures, with the self-same body we cannot go to moon. This is for sure. It is said that agatam parasparam. That means na gatam parasparam. Gata means gone. So we cannot go to even neighboring region within the Bharatavarsha. Then what to speak of going to moon in the self-same body? Unless until we are a mystic personality like Madhvacharya or somebody like that. So where scientists have gone, I did not read anything about it in the website or anything. I cannot comment on that.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, we mentioned that the South Pole nobody has crossed over, and there is probably a conical shape. Like then if somebody is observing through satellites Earth, then it should be connected to, like you said, it will, the entire Bhumandala will keep going down till it reaches Shesha, right? Anant Shesha. So how do we understand that?
So what scientists see is only 2 clouds. The term is given as Magellanic clouds. What the scientists can see from the space satellites on the southern side, they appear to be like clouds. That is what is explained. So everything appears like a cloud.
That is the southern portion of
southern portion of the space, whatever earth. Though they are made up of 5 elements, they are Adrushya Datavad Sarve. It's like that. They are there, but they are not visible to our physical eye. In that way we can understand. Yeah.
But we also from the scriptures make a statement that the earth is not going around the sun. So is the earth stationary at a particular place?
Third presentation. Yes.
As you mentioned, like Bharatavarsha in that Bharatakhanda, if you see most of the, religious or spiritual activities related to Vedic times have happened within India, even within the Bharatakhanda. So how do we connect that? Like even though within the Bharatakhanda also land is vast, but many of them happened within this region.
Simple to understand that we are living here, we need to know our previous people. We don't have to know about somebody else who is staying far and wide.
I'm talking about particularly India within the same planet.
Okay, I don't know. Yesterday I was explaining to one of our devotees. He was asking why, how can you say that there is Bharatavarsha and Bharatkhanda and India is also called Bharat? It's like that. The parent name is gradually coming to the sons. Among the sons, the one will become prominent of the sons. The parent name, here the Bharatavarsha is there. This whole land is Bharatavarsha. Yesterday we said that the bottommost ninth division also called Bharatavarsha. So that is we established it as planet Earth. So in that planet Earth, there is some land which is also of superior in nature. I'm just trying to say this. So that land also got the same name, Bharata Bhumi. So that Bharata, that is coming down all the way here. The scriptures speak that because there are so many pious rivers are going here, so Lord also keep on appearing in this land. So that's why this land is little special. So it takes the same parent name. Wait Mataji, behind. Mic.
Hare Krishna. I would like to know whether, since we are talking about the South Pole not being, it's being the thing, does it have any connection with the Bermuda Triangle when the things disappear?
Sorry to say, I don't know.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. As we have discussed about the flight routes, and we found that there is no route in the southern part. So, have we ever tried for satellite view of the southern part? Could it be possible that definitely there will be no flight, but probably in the aerial view of satellite we can see that is southern part is in the solidified state of water, probably the ice part we can see.
Same answer. I don't know. See, I am not into so much science. I am just trying to connect. So just to, these are all controversial topics. We may not able to give lot of evidences for this, but at least for the sake of understanding, we can see through it like that. Okay, probably Earth could be like this, connected like that. So we don't have any further evidences afterwards also. Just Acharyas have explained like that. So we are taking the references from there. So some people need to do much research in this area and they have to find out what exactly it is, how exactly it is. That requires a lot of effort. Yes,
Prabhuji, you said that the sun and the moon both are actually orbiting against the around the Mount Sumeru.
Yes.
That's right. That means that the sun and moon are opposite to each other all the time. Is that correct? So that when we see the sun, we don't see the moon because moon is on the opposite side. Is that the understanding?
If you don't mind, we are going to discuss about this in detail on third presentation. All the details, the movement of the planets, starting with sun, moon, and Mars, Venus, Mercury, Jupiter, including Rahu, Ketu. The 9 planets, any traditional temple we go, we see in one corner there are Navagrahas are situated. So the movement of these Navagrahas is very well explained in Bhagavatam. That is our third part of the presentation. So that time you will clearly understand this. Moon coming in front of the sun, moon going opposite side of the sun, everything is clear. You will get clarity on that.
Okay, and like the scientists say that the Earth is also rotating on its axis.
Yeah.
So is there something like that mentioned in the Bhagavatam about that, or?
This is simply the concept of theory of relativity. So it's like when two trains are going opposite, so one person sitting in one train, he thinks that that other train is going behind. Another person sitting in the other train, he thinks that this train is going behind. Among the two, who is right? This is one way to understand, but this is all theory of relativity. The which point you are taking as a reference. If you are taking Earth as a reference, that entire model becomes as geocentric model. If you are taking sun as a reference point, the entire model becomes heliocentric model.
Why I'm asking this question is when they launch a geostationary satellite, then they calculate the speed of the Earth, which the Earth is rotating, and then they give the same speed to the satellite so that it remains at a particular point on top of the Earth.
I don't have any answer for this, but I give my tiny understanding. The speed of the Earth is counted with respect to what? It is measured with respect to what? No, these are rotational, orbitals, Paribraman, Atmabraman, not Paribraman. Yeah. No, sun is at the same place only. The self-rotational, it is, we can say that is with respect to atmosphere. No, with respect to atmosphere. The Earth is rotating with respect to surrounding atmosphere. We can see the motion. If you consider atmosphere is stationary, Earth is moving with respect to atmosphere. Okay, in the same way, when you say satellite, if I say Earth is stationary and satellite is moving at the speed of Earth, then we can say that satellite is moving against the speed of the atmosphere. So there are two concepts. One is
You're saying
Earth
atmosphere
is moving, atmosphere is stationary at one speed. Now I am telling Earth is stationary, then atmosphere is moving. The satellite is also moving with respect to atmosphere, not with respect to Earth. It is stationary with respect to Earth, but with respect to atmosphere it is moving in the opposite direction. This is not scientific information, some tinny understanding. You have to check with some scientists.
Okay, and also you mentioned that the Bharatvarsha is also only the place for Karma Bhumi. So all the other Dvipas, other than the Jambu Dvipa, they are also Bhoga Bhumi only, or what?
Yeah,
is it?
yeah.
They all
They live for 1,000, 10,000 years like that. They are like heavenly abodes.
But they are worshipping various kinds of, like they are worshipping demigods also.
No, they are worshipping Supreme Lord in that form. Eventually they are actually worshipping Supreme Lord, but in that form. They are not worshipping demigods as they are. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.